We continued our discussion on this very special month of Elul, the King in the field. God is here with us with so much compassion every single day, which helps me do what I need to do, all the work I have to improve on in this very special month.
So last week, when we spoke about Elul, we gave this beautiful metaphor, this parable of the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, of the king coming to the field, coming to us, smiling at us, embracing us with his smile, embracing us with his energy, and really giving us the energy to do what we need to do. Meaning, Elul is a lot of work on us. It's not when you think of the king in the field and smiling, it sounds like, oh, good. So I just sort of relax and God takes care of it. No, that's not what's going on this month. This month actually is a month that we're supposed to be working, and we're even supposed to be working hard. But knowing the king is in the field smiling at us, or as we decoded that, knowing that this is the month when God's compassion is shining every single day, means I can do a lot of things that I wouldn't normally be able to do. And it's a really beautiful thing to think about now that I know that God's energies are shining. Now that I know that I have enormous power, what am I going to do with it? You could say, survive, get my kids to school, but hopefully at this point, everyone's kids who are dealing with that stage in their life are in school. So we can move on past that point, and we can really try to see what would we like to do as our gift to God, to evoke God's gift to us in this amazing month. Now, what we're supposed to be focusing on is rectifying the past and preparing for the future. We have days of judgment coming up. We have the high holidays. We have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we want to be ready. We want a good year. We want a better year. We want the best year. We're allowed to want all those things. We should want all those things. However good it was, we want more, we want better. And guess what? God says, no problem. I want to give that to you too. I want you to have a good year. I want you to have a better year. I want you to have the best year. And here's how. Here's what you're supposed to do. So literally every day of this month rectifies the entire past year, like today was the 11th. So, and I don't expect you to remember, I definitely don't remember, but whatever I did wrong on the 11th of Tishrei and Cheshvan and Kislev and Tevet and the entire year, I could have changed today. I could have fixed today. I could have improved today. I don't know that I did. I don't know that I was focused. I don't know that I was doing anything better. But maybe just by doing the same good things with a little higher energy, maybe I did. And maybe because it's Elul, I was doing a bit more. I don't remember. Maybe tomorrow I'll do a bit more because I'm giving the class tonight. But this is how it works literally every day. Tomorrow, tonight, the 12th, do you remember what you did wrong the 12th of Cheshvan? Who knows? But living the right, making the good choices, or maybe you do know. Maybe you do know over this year some of your major transgressions. Rectifying them now literally changes the energy of all of those days. Our sages say there are 5 coordinates specifically to think about, because there are actually 5 verses that each spell out, one way or another, the word Elul. Of course, the famous one we all know, Ani l'doidi v'doidi li, but that's only one. There happen to be 5. Most people only know that one. There's a verse on Torah, there's a verse on prayer, there's a verse on kindness, there's a verse on redemption, and there's a verse on repentance. Torah, Tefillah, Chesed, Tshuva, Geula. So the king in the field is giving me the power to do the work that I need to do and helping me that I can do it. I can add in Torah and in my prayer and in kindness to other people. And I could try to fix up my act. And I could flavor all this with the awareness that redemption is coming, which gives an impetus that's like, it's almost there. It's almost there. If I really feel it's almost there, I can push. After we heard a story this week about someone who was going to the Israeli army, and he wanted to be in a very, very high crack unit. And I was actually just speaking tonight. My brother-in-law and his children are actually at the stage of their lives. We're actually talking about those details, not the story, but similar. You take these tests already in 12th grade, and how you do on the test. Based on that, they determine which unit they could invite you to try to get into. And some children really prepare for years. So this was such a kid. For years, he's been working for this top unit, the elite of the elite, you know, the Navy SEALs of Israel, so to speak. And he was accepted to the trainings to weed out. Anyway, he's at the final end of this cannot be believed rigorous, like, if you can survive this, you're in, because you can't really, it's really hard to survive this. And he kept pushing, and finally his body collapsed. That's it. He wanted to keep going, but his body said, we're done. And if your body collapses, you're out. So his body collapsed, and they had the paramedics come, and he knew this was the end of his dreams. But what could he do? His body was not cooperating. And as the paramedic came to him, he heard the paramedic saying something like, what a pity. He had only 1.5 kilometers left. And at that moment, he jumped up. His body that refused to cooperate jumped up, and he finished 1.5 kilometers. After everything he'd been through, he made it. He got into the unit. And that's sort of the concept of, when you know redemption is so imminent, your tshuva, your Torah, your prayers, your acts of kindness, you can do them all. You have a little more energy, like just hang in a little bit longer. So that's with all the redemption energy. So we have the king, he's in the field, he's empowering me to do the work. And I really want to do it now, because there's a very cool concept, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, that you can, if you pull yourself together, if you already now do everything you need to do, God will judge you in Elul. He won't wait for the high holidays. You're not going to be in the court on Rosh Hashanah. When you're already in Elul, God's already going to pull you in. What's the advantage? The prosecutor doesn't know that God holds court in Elul. The prosecutor's Jewish calendar is only marked for Rosh Hashanah. So the prosecutor doesn't show up. It's like if you got a ticket and you go to court and the cop isn't there, you win. If you go to court in Elul, you win. The prosecutor is not there. This is literal. This is a literal reality. So there's very high motivation for us to really try to look at ourselves very seriously now, and not wait to be like in Shul on Rosh Hashanah and try to pull it all together. There's 2 very famous parables. I'm sure everyone here knows both of them. I'm sure you heard them as children. I think I heard them as children, so that means you're quite old. I did not make them up. I don't know who did, but they really work, both in the positive and in the negative. And again, I'm sure everyone here has heard of both. The parable of the boat, that the boat is owned by some wealthy man, some little sailboat, and it's the beginning of the season, and he hires a painter to paint it, to make it look nice. And the painter comes, he paints it, does a beautiful job, gets his paycheck, goes home, and a few hours later, this wealthy man's knocking at his door with a very large check, much bigger than the first one. And the painter's like completely confused. Oh, well, what are you doing? You paid me already. You don't owe me any money. You definitely don't owe me that. And the man said, oh, there's one thing I didn't pay you for. I didn't pay you for fixing that hole in the bottom of the boat. He said, oh, well, it was nothing. I just patched it. I didn't charge you for that. I definitely didn't charge you that amount for that. I wouldn't charge you that amount if I worked for a month. Like, what are you doing? And the man said, you don't understand. He said, I knew the boat needed to be painted. I forgot about the hole. And then when I came home today from work, I saw the boat wasn't on the dock. My children had taken it out. And then I remembered the hole, and I was terrified. And then I saw the boat, and it was floating. It was seaworthy. I knew something weird happened. What was going on? What was this miracle? And when they came in, I looked and I saw someone have fixed that hole. I knew it had to be you. This check isn't for fixing the hole. This check is for saving my kids' lives. It's a beautiful parable.
I've never heard that.
You never heard that?
What? Never.
Oh my God.
Am I the only one?
Did anyone else? Who has heard this before? I said it really fast. I could have stretched out longer, but anyone else heard this before?
Never heard.
I never heard that, but someone has to fill me in because I didn't even hear the full thing. So one of my kids walked downstairs. So could someone fill me in after? Because it sounds really good.
Okay. You didn't have to hear it either.
I heard half of what you said, and I want to hear the whole story, but after.
Okay. Anyone who has heard this before? All right, Shira, you are in good company. No one heard this before. I wish I could pretend I made it up. I didn't. It's something I heard. I literally think when I was a child. But isn't it a good mashal? It's so powerful because it makes so much sense in our brains. It's an amazing parable for a very basic, simple concept we want to remember every day, and especially in Elul. You can never estimate the real worth of your smallest, easy, mindless good deed. You have no clue. You have no clue. All right, since you maybe went, I'm going to tell you now the other story. This story you probably heard, because this isn't a positive version. This is the more negative version. Okay, I'll say this one quickly also. We'll see. I think more people heard it. There was a very wealthy family that, because they were so wealthy, you have to have everything the best, and having everything already the best. What more can you do? They bought this gorgeous, stunning chandelier for a fortune or so. And it was so huge, so massive, so gorgeous. They needed a whole crew to figure out how to hang it from their ceiling. The whole ceiling wouldn't collapse under the weight. They contracted this whole, with strings and ropes going all the way up to their attic. Okay, beautiful, the centerpiece of the home. Everyone admired it or was jealous of it. Beautiful, stunning chandelier. One day, a little boy comes to their home, a beggar, hungry, in rags, tattered. And they're very kind, compassionate people. They take him in, they'll just give him some money, they give him a good meal. And they're saying, we feel you're wearing shmata, you're wearing rags. Go up to the attic, we have a lot of clothes. Take whatever you want. He's so excited. He's going to get shoes without holes and everything. He goes up and they guide him to the attic. Take whatever clothing you want. He takes this, he takes this, he takes this, he takes this. He's never seen so many clothing in his life. And as he's leaving, he's like, how am I going to carry all this clothing? Where am I going to, he's homeless also. Where am I going to go with it? How am I going to transport it? He said, take whatever clothing you want. He took the clothing, but what's he supposed to do? What bag is he supposed to put it in? So he looks around the attic and he sees some rope. He's like, okay, they said I could take the clothing, but I could take a piece of rope. He cut a little piece of rope to tie up the clothing in a bundle, to carry all this great stuff. And as he does so, crash. That was a chandelier's rope. Have you heard of that one?
Never.
Never. All right. That's another very, very famous mashal, a metaphor for we can never estimate the damage of something that we view as quite small, but not on the positive side. We never know the value of the good, and we can also never know the damage of the wrong. And both of those mashalim are just like stories. They're easy to remember, they're easy to relate to, and they're really true in our lives. Did anyone ever have this experience? We're only going to speak on the positive, where you did something that you viewed as quite small, but it really made a difference to someone. Maybe to you, maybe to your kids, maybe to a neighbor down the block. Anyone ever do something for someone they didn't view as a big deal, but it was a big deal?
For sure.
Okay, an example?
Let me think. No, I've heard people remind me of oh, after I had a baby, you did this, or just different things. I'm like, I did that. I don't remember. Oh yeah, it made such a big difference. It was so helpful. I'm like, really? I totally forgot about it. Stuff like that.
All the time it happens. Anyone else? You, or the opposite. Were you ever the recipient? Someone did you something that was so meaningful to you, even though maybe it wasn't such a big deal for them?
Yeah, with when my sister had a baby, I don't even remember this at all, but she told me that like it was her first child, and she was up in the night feeding the baby, and she was just like lonely and scared, and it was her first child, and she was a little overwhelmed. And apparently I just like sat with her all night and like just helped her, and just like, and she's like, I would not have gotten through without that, and I don't even remember doing that. So
That sounds like a big deal, not a little deal. But I get the point. You don't even remember. There was a lot going on. It was another night you didn't sleep. Chalk it up. But
right, like it was just like me being there. Okay, so like I'll sleep in between the baby. I'm not like recovering from birth. It's not like I'm home anyway, whatever. But she was like, no, you stayed with me and like you talked to me and you woke up and you like were half asleep. But then I'm like, okay, I guess, like, if you say so.
Okay, that reminds me actually, Dina, my sister-in-law who has Down syndrome, who's the same age as me, I used to have to go upstairs to nurse Kayla when I would go to my in-laws' house. And every time I did that, she would sit next to me for about an hour, even if it was during like a meal, or she would just sit next to me and talk to me. And yeah, something I appreciated, because otherwise I would have been alone up there in like a new house,
wow, that's so special. She was Down syndrome and she had that sensitivity and she was able to do it. And she was helping you.
Yes, and it always reminds her of it.
It's just amazing. I remember myself being the recipient, little thing, but I had like traveled to New York. I was like totally drained. I was in 770, the Central Synagogue, waiting for some prayer service. I didn't want to go to my mother's. I just wanted to participate in that prayer service. And I was so drained and so exhausted. And like, done. Smiled at me. I smiled at her. Some lady I know. I definitely wasn't looking to talk to anyone. And a few minutes later, she walked in with this cup of hot chocolate. And it was like, I could have also gone across the street and bought it, but I would never have thought to do that. I would never have computed to do that. And it was so meaningful. It was meaningful she cared. It was meaningful she did it. It made me feel it was something hot and lots of calories. So it was very nourishing, what I needed. It was just amazing. And it was truly, it wasn't like Dina staying up the whole night. It took her 5 minutes. But I still remember it. It was a few years ago. I still remember it. So all of us hopefully have been the recipient of those kindnesses, and all of us hopefully have given those kindnesses. And it's nice to remember that sometimes something very small from your end, something easy, can really make a huge difference. I was thinking, again, this is something I did, but someone that I'm very close to, how did we connect? She was in a really bad phase, a lot of stuff going on. And stuff going on with her marriage, there was stuff going on. She was in a really, really bad phase. And she was speaking to someone she knew, like sort of pouring her heart. And the woman she was talking to was like, I don't really know what to tell you, but I know someone who could, someone like in West Rogers Park. And she's thinking, West Rogers Park? That's like where really religious people live. Like, I don't relate to them at all. Whatever, fine. She took my number. And, we've been very close for the past 15 years. And it was just that woman's suggestion, someone's pouring out their heart to me. I don't know what to do. Instead of saying, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. Sure, a little something to try to help. You never know where it's going to lead. So we really never know when we just scatter those little kindnesses, those little good deeds, those little acts of love for other people. We never know what might be the outcome. And it might not be. Dina's saying she has no memory. Shira's saying she did things for people. She has no memory. And maybe, you're going to really give to another person and you're not going to hear about it 5 years later. And it wasn't that ultimately meaningful cup of hot cocoa, it was, and it wasn't more than that. But you never know what it really is. Dina.
So that story that you're saying of the person that you became close with, I had the same story with you too. Shira's sister just gave me your number when I was gave me your number when I was in a not so great space and like changed my life for the positive forever. So I completely like relate to that on the receiving end.
Yes, I remember that. I do. You're right. And it's true. And I'm saying it didn't take that much effort on Rena's part. You know, it was just a thought. Oh, maybe, you know, a few minutes of her time, even less. But it makes a big difference. You know, a lot of times I feel it's like when something big happens from something small you do. I know for myself, if I'm doing it, I feel like that wasn't me, that was God. Like, you know, I didn't have any big intentions. It was something small I was doing that happened to be the right thing at the right moment. So it was Hashem working through me. But it's very, very, it's such a blessing when you can look at anything and say, wow, thank you, Hashem. You were doing it, but thank you that you chose me to be your tool.
Yeah. So